Hi, my name is Samantha Tab, and this is my Module 14 When Ethics and Policies Collide case study. So first I'm going to summarize and I'm going to go establish the facts. First, Richard Inman, or Mr. Inman, was a first-year assistant principal. Then there's James, who was 15 and he's from the South Side. There was a teacher involved. There was David, who is a young scholar, whom is also in band. A police officer that works for the school. James's mother, who wants to leave James in the detention center. There's David's mother, who cried and was not satisfied with the consequences. And then there's the director of the secondary education, who follows through with the reprimand. So what happened? First, there was a teacher who told Mr. Inman that she saw James giving something to David and she thought it was drugs. So James and David are asked to go to the office and they are escorted by the police officer. David is questioned and searched. Brass knuckles were found on David. James said that he threatened David if he would not take the brass knuckles, and David and James got handcuffed instantly and taken to a youth detention center. What was felt and what was said. So Mr. Inman feels trapped between doing the policies and his ethical obligation to do what's best for his kids. The moms, James's mother said, let him sit here for a few days. Maybe he will learn his lesson this time. David's mother, if the other kid is admitted he forced my son to do this, why is my son in trouble? Especially after never being in trouble before, and David's mother felt like she did not know what the policies were for this type of action. So also what happened is Mr. Inman filled out paperwork to expel James. He ripped up David's paperwork to be expelled because he felt like it wasn't right. Mr. Inman got a call from the director of secondary education advising him to fill out the paperwork and expel David because that is part of the zero tolerance policy through the district. And also it was said if he did not follow through with the policy, he would have a formal reprimand left in his file. So next, the legal and the ethical issues here. So who's been harmed by the action and decision of another, and if so, in what way? David has been harmed by the actions because of the brass knuckle situation. David has also been harmed by the decision of the director of secondary education to expel him based on the zero tolerance policy. His future has been harmed, and his reputation has also been harmed. Mr. Inman has been harmed by his own decision and or the zero tolerance policy put in place by the district. And he's also been harmed by the decision of the director of secondary education to threaten him with a permanent reprimand. Some legal issues here are brass knuckles are prohibited. It is a felony offense. The detention center, the zero tolerance policy, it might not be followed by the assistant principal, which could cause a lawsuit to the school. Breach of contract, when the assistant principal signed to be the assistant principal, he signed a contract and he needs to uphold the district policies. And then also harassment of David by James. The ethical issues here are James was threatening David. That's not really ethical. Mr. Inman did not follow the district policies because he thought he was doing what was best for his students. While understandable, I also feel like this situation was discriminatory because James was automatically pinned the problem and David was not. Good kids can also make bad decisions too. This is where an investigation needs to come into play. So I'm going to synthesize and put the pieces together here. So I would say that personal ethics were put before policies set forth by the district by the assistant principal. When educators and administrators as educators and administrators do we decide what is more important, ethics or policies? And I feel like this is such a good case study to kind of put that thinking into play. So the facts. What I know about the people. Mr. Inman is a first-year principal. He did an ethical decision to expel James and David both. Question mark. Was told by the director of secondary education to fulfill the duty to expel David. I do know that Mr. Inman cultivates relationships with students by spending time with them, like basketball and all of that. James, he's known as a bad kid, threatened another student with brass knuckles to hold the brass knuckles. He was handcuffed and taken to detention center. He's also from the South Side. David is known as a good kid. He's in band. He was threatened to hold the brass knuckles, got searched, and also disciplined. What I don't know about Mr. Inman is he the only person in charge? Does he have a mentor to talk about this with? Is there a principal that he can confide in? James, what I don't know about James is, has he been in trouble for threatening behavior before? Has he brought weapons to school before? Did he really threaten David to keep the brass knuckles? If he has been such a problem, what are the policies for admitting for him attending an alternative school, or what other consequences has he had in the past? What I don't know about David is, has he ever had to stick up for himself before in a situation like this? And why didn't he walk away from the situation? Also, why were James and David talking? That's kind of something that I would want to know. Why was David pinpointed for this brass knuckle situation? So also what I know, the police officer, he brought the student to the office, searched the student, and took the students to the detention center. James's mom was not surprised by the behavior, said to leave him at the detention center in hopes that he will learn a lesson. David's mom was surprised by the situation, was not aware of the policy, fought for her son to not be in trouble because he has never had an offense before. The director of secondary education advised the assistant principal to follow the district policies or he would be reprimanded. What I don't know about the people on this page are James's mom. Has she had support to support her life and the life of James? The director of secondary education. Not that it's relevant, but does this person have to do this often? Did he ask about the students involved? Are there any exceptions to the zero tolerance policy? Also, since the director of secondary education is a stakeholder, is this something that he should have been involved in? So the witnessing teacher, why did she not approach the students when she saw it going down? I feel like as a teacher, you see something going down, you need to step in. And then if you can't solve the problem, then, you call for support. What I know about the place. So I know it's at Rocket Junior High School, 900 students. It has teachers, obviously, offers bus services. The school has students from the south side of town. The school has tough kids, has a police officer, and has policies in place, such as the zero tolerance policy. What I don't know, is it urban or suburban? I don't know. I would think it would be suburban urban. I don't even know. Free and reduced lunches, the demographics of the entire school. I do not know about that. What I know and not know about the program is, I know it's a junior high, it offers bus services, it has teachers, honors classes, bands, and it has policies. Other than that, I'm not sure what kind of unknown facts that I would need for the case to be more successful. Please help me with that one in your feedback. Now I'm going to prioritize the information. So the information about this case could be damaging to the community for many reasons. It's going to show the community that either they do follow through with consequences or they don't, depending on the option that we take to solve the problem. The safety of the students and the staff. Brass knuckles are kind of a big deal, and there is a weapons policy in place for a reason. That could be damaging to the reputation based on the community's knowledge of this situation. The information about this case could be damaging to the stakeholders, Mr. Inman, David, James, and other students. Also the reputation of the school. Not all stakeholders have been contacted. Is there a principal, the superintendent, the director of secondary education was involved? So I'm not sure if that's someone that you would bring in before a consequence was chosen. Do they have a behavior dean? The parents definitely should have been involved before they're getting handcuffed and all of that. And then there's more people, I'm sure, that should have been involved here. I can learn more about this situation. Why did the teacher not approach this situation? Is there a principal in the building? Why was there no conversation with parents before being handcuffed and taken away? Why is there no exception to a zero tolerance policy? Obviously, because it's a zero tolerance policy, but case-by-case basis are important. Are there cameras in the building to investigate further? Why was there not much investigation to the situation? If I want to follow the policy strictly, if I want to follow the policy strictly, it says I do not have enough information, but I do, and they would be expelled immediately. Sorry about that. However, I still think situations with discipline might be on a case-by-case basis, and we should still investigate before making a well-informed decision. So that is my decision. Next, I'm going to talk about the options and the possible consequences. So decision making. If I had no action, the safety of the students is at risk, and showing everyone that there might not be consequences to their actions of bringing weapons to school or being involved in a weapon situation. If I involve the police immediately, which is what Mr. Inman did, then they will be handcuffed, taken to the detention center, and expelled for 45 days. I could also be an advocate and not file expulsion paperwork, but discipline differently. I could put James on a security watch, like he's kind of in charge, like maybe use him to my advantage as far as bringing weapons to school. He is like, I don't want to call it a gang, but at the beginning it said that he was the something for his friends of the South Side, and I would use him to my advantage as a assistant principal. Also, put David in a program maybe with a counselor or some other district resource that teaches him these skills to stick up for himself. I know that seems kind of like elementary school, but like if you're going to show me that you can't handle sticking up for yourself, I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you the resources to learn that skill. Okay, so do not file for David, file for James, and take the reprimand in my file. Take control of the situation myself. Did he hand over the brass knuckles? Was he honest about the situation? Does the story match the cameras? This would not involve the police officer right away. And then also I could just file the paperwork for both students based on the policies. So I'm going to evaluate the evaluate my options, the pros and cons. So if I do nothing, it's easy. It's always easy to do nothing. The cons would be it's not a good example, no consequences for actions, and it's not safe to the teachers and the students in the school. Expulsion for both students. It would be following the policy strictly, and it would be a strict example to all students that weapons are not here, you will be expelled. The cons of that would be it might not be ethical or fair to David. Is it appropriate for David, this being his first offense, if we have all the information after an investigation? Next, expel only James. The pros here would be that James has a consequence. David does not have a consequence if he did not do anything. This would be a decision made after investigation. So then the cons would be James takes all the blame, and that you're not following the policy and you'll get a reprimand. So taking control of the situation myself, I would be building relationships with students in a manner where they feel like they can come to me if this were to happen. Like David could have went to the assistant principal and said, James made me do this. I was threatened, but here they are. It might not damage their future. The truth might come out naturally and the consequences could fit the actions there. And then the cons would be you're not following the policy and you'll have a reprimand. So the last one here that I am going to look at is James being on security watch and David learning skills through the counselor or some other district resource. Using James to feel responsible around the school, David getting the skills he needs to stick up for himself. Consequences might fit the actions more appropriately overall, but mostly for David. And then also using James, like I said earlier, to our advantage. The cons would be, is James getting the consequence he really needs, and then you're still not following the policy. So here, choosing the best option. If I were in control of the situation, I would have chosen to take control of the situation myself, but involve a building principal and other stakeholders that need to be involved, minus the police officer right away. Implementation of the plan. So taking control of the situation myself would build the relationships with those students. The outcomes would be that I feel like their consequences might fit the choice, but also I also have to think like if someone were to hear about this, I'm not following the policy, which is where I'm like completely stuck and I just know I'm not ready to be a principal, or definitely not ready to be a principal without a strong mentor. Who needs to be informed? Literally anybody involved, the students involved, the parents involved. I would definitely call the principal for guidance on them. And then if we needed to go higher above the principal, then that would be necessary. Warning, don't threatening is definitely important as far as building rapport and strict policies at the school. And then if that didn't work, what I would do next, this is where I'm just going to be honest. I would need a strong mentor and a lot more experience in the office position to know what to do next. I feel like I don't know what I would do next because I don't know enough information about James and what he has been through at the school and what other consequences have worked and have not worked. Obviously, some of the consequences have not worked. And so that's where I would have to get creative. But I am super creative as far as coming up with consequences. I feel like the consequences should be logical, but also follow policies. Dr. Adams, I just don't feel like I have enough background on James and David to tell what I would do next in this situation. But thank you for watching, and thank you for another great class. Bye.